Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist, and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
Between aging and busy lifestyles, many women struggle with maintaining their physical and mental wellness. At Aquavita Concierge Healthcare Services for Women, we can help you revitalize your health and reclaim your life. We start from within by balancing your hormones, allowing your body to achieve and maintain desired weight goals. We also specialize in peptide therapies, regenerative medicine, sexual health, and aesthetics in our state-of-the-art facilities. Feel better, look better, live better at Aquavita. Visit aquavitality.com and begin your journey today.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, your host, Elena Grace, and you are listening to another episode of I've Been Thinking. So, it's a book club episode today, a book of the month. And I'm going to tell y'all a story, okay? I'm going to tell you about this book because I really want you to read it. So, this month our book is Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan. And let me tell you, this is definitely one of my favorite books that I have ever read, okay? It's a true story, okay? So technically, I think that this is historical fiction because there are some holes that get filled in with like some research and some artistic assumptions and stuff. But the story is true based on Pino, the main character, based on his testimony. And Pino is a real person. And he really lived through all of these things that the book is about, right? So it's kind of an as told to situation. Like, Pino tells the story to Mark. Mark writes the story down, right? And it's wild how this all came together. So the author, Mark Sullivan, is literally suicidal. He is about to kill himself. Like, he is in the act of almost committing suicide. But he says that he looks up into the snowbank that he is about to drive himself into on purpose. And he just sees his wife and his kids. And he's like, I can't do this. I cannot leave them. So he goes home. And he doesn't tell his wife what just happened. And she's just like, hey, my stomach kind of hurts. We're supposed to go to this dinner party. We absolutely cannot cancel on them. It would be so rude if we did. I need you to go. Just go for like an hour and just like be our family representative at this dinner party, right? And then you can come home. I just need you to go for a little while. And he's like, all right, fine, I'll do that for you. Like, sounds good. He doesn't really want to go. He doesn't want to be there at all. He's literally just almost killed himself. Like, imagine coming home from that and your wife asking you to do, which granted she doesn't know, so like it's not her fault at all, but then having to go do something that you don't want to do. Yikes. But he goes and he's like, I'll stay for a little while. And that ends up being the night that he hears the story that literally changes the course of his life. It is at that dinner that he did not even want to go to. So he hears the story from like a friend of a friend a friend of the son of somebody, that's whatever. But a distant connection between him and Pinot. And so he gets in contact with Pinot. And over time, he convinces him to let him tell the story and to let him do this book, right? And then Mark goes and he actually lives in Pinot's Italian villa with him for like 3 weeks, I think. And that's where Pinot tells him the story and Mark starts writing the book. And I think that is what makes me love this book so much, right? I mean, first of all, it literally saved a man's life, which is pretty dope. It's rare that I think it's rare that we hear of an idea like keeping somebody alive in this way. I mean, it was just fate, if you ask me. That was one of God's twisted webs that he uses to but it's good. Anyway, so like I said, saves his life, but even more than that, there is this literal hero. Like, this man should be given like a medal. Easily one medal for all of the things that he did during the war. And he's just out here living life. He's just chilling, vibing, hanging out in his villa, living quietly. And I mean, in the meantime, he experiences some of life's highest highs and lowest lows. Like, he lives a full life. But he really never would have told his story. This isn't a story that he told a whole lot, And probably no one would have really known about it to tell it either if it had not have just so happened to everything come together that night. That's so incredible. It gives me cold chills. So this book is inspirational. It is gripping, and honest to God, it is the story of a lifetime. Okay. I read this actually while I was on the plane to Japan a few years ago, and I read the majority of the book on my flight. And then I remember I was just so gripped with it that I spent a whole morning, one morning in Tokyo. I was with my cousin and he was like, hey, just hang out. I'm going to go to the gym for an hour or two. And then we'll go do stuff, right? And I was like, okay, sounds good. I'm jet lagged anyway, whatever. I spent that whole morning reading, and he came back, and I was like, listen, I can't move until I finish this book. We're putting things on hold in Tokyo. This once in a lifetime experience. I was like, I have to finish this book. I'm almost done. And I did. Anyway. So, I'm not going to ruin anything for you. Obviously, I'm going to tell you some things that you wouldn't have known if you'd never read the book, but I'm not ruining any huge secrets. I'm not going to do that for you because you need to read this. I encourage you with my whole entire body. Please read this book. I swear it is one of the best books I've ever come across, and I don't say that lightly. I am very particular about my reading, and it has stuck with me in a very unique way. Okay, so there's this young man named Pinot. He lives in Milan with his decently well-off family. They are leather workers. They work in fine leather goods, fine Italian handbags, right? And he is just a normal Italian teenage boy. He loves food and girls and the movies and going on dates. But the Nazis are invading Italy, and he is forced to care about this war that he's tried so hard to avoid even thinking about, right? He's just kind of ignored that it's happening. So when his family home in Milan is destroyed by Allied bombs that are trying to destroy the Nazi strongholds in the city, which sucks, his dad sends his mom and sister to the coast so that they'll be safe there. And he's like, all right, Pino, you and your little brother, Mimo, which cute. He's like, Pino, you and Mimo go to like the boys' school in this little like church in a small town in the Alps. And this is a place that they would go to this church, to this like boys' school. They would stay there like I don't remember if it's like every summer or they'd go skiing there every winter, something like that. But they had visited it many times and they knew the father that was in charge of the boys, father as in like Catholic priest. And it was an area that they were familiar with, okay? And they end up making friends while they're there and all of that stuff. And Pino learns some very valuable things that set the tone for his life while he's there. But the father starts making Pino hike every single day because he's like way older than most of the boys that are at this school. So he's like, Pino, you're not really concerned with like the things they're doing. I need you to go hike. Like that is your lesson for the day. And so he's like, take this piece of paper and map out the mountain. You're going to learn how to do that. Pino's like, all right, I'm kind of annoyed, but fine. And later, after he has like started building up his endurance and he's learning the mountains and all this, he finds out that the father had an ulterior motive to this. Pino is being used by the father to run an underground railroad helping Jews escape over the Alps. This is such an important part of Pino's story. And I've been reading some stuff, about the book. And for a lot of people, this actually raised the question of, these are different belief systems, Catholic and Jews. So why did the father help? Do we think that maybe a Christian would help a Muslim in a similar manner today? And to all of those people on the internet asking those questions, absolutely. A true Christian, of which, granted, there are few and far between, they would 100% help because no person with a heart would have let those things happen. Have you seen the videos from a few years back of Egyptian Christians making a human shield around Muslims praying in a public venue? Because Muslims were being attacked at that point in time. This is from probably like 2013, maybe. I don't remember. Farther back than I realized clearly. But I mean, it's a beautiful video. That shit stirs my soul, right? And so for that reason, yeah, I will say that anybody with a heart that can overcome fear, that's the important part. Are you you can have a heart and you can feel bad for people and you can still let injustice happen. But do you have a heart that can overcome fear and put a love of others above self-preservation, right? So those people, which I think that definition applies to somebody who is truly living a Christ-like life, yes, they would help. I will say, though, that I think it would be really difficult for an underground railroad like this to exist today because, we leave digital trails all the time. They use satellite imagery for, intelligence collection. All of this, we couldn't do that we couldn't do this the way they did, but it could probably be pulled off with a ton of advanced planning, like way more than they did. Okay, anyway. So Pino is doing this Underground Railroad. Which is not literally underground. It's actually overground because it's over the Alps. But he's leading people over they're literally hiking the Alps into Switzerland and going past like Nazi guards. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And he does this so many times. Like, it's insane how many times he does this. So he goes back home for a little while. And his parents are like, hey, guess what? We've enlisted you as a Nazi soldier. And he's like, what the actual, like, what do you think you're doing? And they're like, here's the thing. We're trying to protect you. Because, you know, kind of the idea of, like, when you're in the eye of the tornado, you're safe. They think that by doing this, they'll be able to keep him out of combat and hopefully keep him safe. So, weirdly, that does work out for them because he gets injured. And so he had learned how to drive. So he becomes the personal driver to Hitler's left-hand man in Italy, General Hans Leyers. This guy is one of the Third Reich's most powerful players. So the book gives us some really interesting questions to ask about General Leyers, and I want to just touch on this for a minute. So during the duration of Pino knowing him, we see like some really interesting things happen. Like General Leyers, Pino drives him to something, and Pino like snuck out of his car to go spy on him and see what was happening. And General Leyers is overseeing people being loaded onto trains going to concentration camps. And the man is shook. Like, he is like, what's going on? What the crap? And he even ends up like saving some sickly children from getting on the train. And those two things just in and of themselves, like, did he know what was happening, but like seeing it in real life made it real and that scared him? Was this him finding out because he didn't know what was happening and then he was like genuinely shocked? Did he save these little sickly children because he himself was a father and he wanted to show some kind of compassion to like maybe ease his guilt a little bit? Was he doing this as like a weird favor that he could cash in on later? Like, because he was a very political, strategic man. Like, maybe he was saving little things up for later because he thought that the Nazi party wouldn't last. And he was saving it up just in case. So he could be like, hey, allies, what's up, y'all? I did this small thing that was maybe a little bit nice. Help me out, you know? Like, but after the war is over in Italy and all is said and done, you know, Pino actually gets the opportunity to kill General Leyers, and he chooses not to. I think, to me, that was Pino trying to prove to himself that he is not as dark and inhuman as the Nazis, and that he has mercy, and that he would make decisions that they would never make, you know? Anyway, okay. Circling back. So, I'm passionate about this one, okay? So, Pino becomes a spy for the Allies while he's a driver for General Leyers. And he is seeing the horrors of war from both sides. He's seeing it, as a spy, and then he's also seeing it as a Nazi soldier. And he is putting himself in a terribly dangerous position of spying inside the German high command for the Allies. And they kind of know that something's going on. Like, the Nazis kind of know that something's going on. But they can't figure out who it is, So along the way, sometime amongst all of this, his little brother, Mimo, he leaves the church and he joins a guerrilla resistance group. And so that creates some major family tension, right? Not from Pino and the rest of the family, because the rest of the family, like, they're vibing, they're doing their own resistance thing. Pino's a spy, and little brother is just pissed that his big brother is a Nazi. But nobody can tell him that Pino's a spy because it's too risky. Like, what if Mimo says something, like, whatever. Nobody can tell him because the whole family knows. So he just has to completely sacrifice his relationship with his baby brother and hope that one of them doesn't die before Mimo, the little brother, can find out the truth. Like, Pino actually does things like this. He has to sacrifice relationships with people multiple times so that he can keep working, like, for the greater good. And I just think that's incredible that he was able to do that. Oh, wow. So Pino falls in love with a woman that is a few years older than him. Her name is Anna. They actually run into each other a few times along the way, for which reason you absolutely cannot tell me that they were not meant for each other. Like, I've talked about fate already a few times. I'm going to talk about it again. They were meant for each other. So anyway, they fall madly in love, all this stuff, and she is, like, life-changing. She is important to his entire journey. Like, her presence on this earth changes every single thing that he experiences from the moment he met her moving on, which I cannot imagine. I hope that I am that kind of life-changing to Adam. I hope that he loves me that much. And, I mean, oh, wow. Okay, so at the end of the book, pretty much, the Germans surrender. We very quickly, see the Italians turn on each other. Like neighbors ripping each other apart, slaughtering their own countrymen because, oh, you were friendly to the Nazis, or you did nothing to stop things, all that stuff. And that is just really heartbreaking. And I wanted to bring this up because, like, they have just survived German occupation, and now suddenly they have, like, all this pent-up anger and hostility and fear. And I guess that, like, they've not been able to act on it for so long. They've just been scared. They've just been living day to day trying to survive, right? And now suddenly they have freedom again. And they just let it out on their neighbors, though. Like, I cannot imagine having gone through that. But I also cannot imagine turning on my neighbors in that way. And, like, I have no idea what I would do in that situation. And I highly doubt I would easily forgive neighbors that I felt were, like, a little too friendly with the Nazis. Definitely wouldn't trust them. But I don't know. That reaction, it really makes you think. And they've got a lot of pent-up anger and trauma. But, like, I want to ask you all this. What do you think you would do? I would really love for you to comment on the Instagram post about this episode, or comment on the blog post about it and tell me, what do you think you would do in that kind of situation? All right, so I want to sum it up, and I want to give you, not really sum it up, I'm going to bring it in. So I want to share with you something that I think is really, really important from this book. At the beginning, bombs are being dropped in the city of Milan. And Pino's friend's father is somehow able to save his grocery store, in spite of the fact that literally whole sections of the city are completely flattened, right? And his name is Mr. Beltramini, and he says to Pino, if a bomb's coming at you, it's coming at you. You can't just go around worrying about it. Just go on doing what you love and go on enjoying your life. And I want to end on that because we live in a tumultuous time. We live in a day and age where we know everything is going on in the world, especially the bad things, and it's hard to not let all that weigh on you and worry you. And we always feel like there's some next big thing coming to ruin our day. But we just have to keep on living. Like Matthew McConaughey says, you just got to keep living. We have to enjoy the life that we love while we have it, because we don't have it for long. So I hope that this episode has made you want to read this book, first of all. Please go read it. It is so good. But second of all, I hope that it's given you a little bit of perspective, maybe, right? We have it pretty good, just in general. And it does always seem like there's some next big thing coming to ruin everything. But don't let that ruin what you have. Worrying makes things twice as bad, you know? Just live your life, love your life, find joy, and we'll deal with the bad things when they come around. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening today. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Patreon for early access and for extra content. Also, for little treats like stickers with the logo and stuff. And also to allow me to continue working on this incredible project of mine. Give us a follow on Instagram at I've Been Thinking Pod and let us know what you thought. Subscribe where you listen, please. If you use Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. The blog post about today's episode will be at I'veBeenThinkingPod.com. So if you want the link to Mark Sullivan's page about this book, it will be on the blog post. And yes, refer us to a friend. Tell somebody that you care about to listen to this podcast if you think it'll bring value to their life. Hopefully it will. All right, thanks for listening, guys. I love you, and I will talk at you next week. Bye.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist, and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
Did you miss your deadline to renew your Medicaid coverage? You can still send your completed annual review form to Healthy Connections Medicaid. You may be assigned to another health plan, but you can ask to come back to First Choice within 60 days of renewed Medicaid eligibility. It's your family. It's your choice. First Choice is the right choice. Renew and choose us. Visit selecthealthofsc.com/renew to learn more.